Okay, unwritten rule of work, number 1. I'm Dr. Anna Kalschmidt. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, and I specialize in culture, cultural mismatch, and culture change. I posted last week about my dissertation being on the unwritten rules of work for people from low-income backgrounds and how that varied and overlapped between black and white women and men. Hopefully this is helpful to people who are from similar environments and to people who are managing people who are from these environments. Again, I don't endorse these norms. I'm just being transparent about them. The first norm we talked about, the first rule, was shifting to independent values. People from low-income backgrounds are usually raised in interdependent values. This is likely because they share limited resources. Interdependent values emphasize the importance of social relationships, fitting in, making other people comfortable, not rocking the boat. It also emphasizes the importance of working together and teamwork and collaboration. Independent values are more common for people raised middle class or higher, and these are more focused on individualism, having influence over others, being unique, and making your own contributions to things. This can also have an emphasis on competition over collaboration. This was a shock for many of my participants who talked about being raised to work with more collaboration and teamwork, and then they're in these white-collar environments that felt more to them cutthroat. This was especially brought up the most by black women in my study. Now, my study was qualitative, it's not quantitative, so I interviewed them because there aren't scales out there to measure this stuff yet. Qualitative work isn't generalizable. It tells us why something is happening, it doesn't tell us how much. But this was mostly brought up among black women, and that is not surprising because black communities tend to focus on more communal values, which are more interdependent, and than white communities, and women are more expected to be communal than men, who are expected to be agentic and can even be penalized for acting too communal. What surprised us was that this was second most prominent among white men who brought up this shift being a surprise to them. That doesn't mean the consequences are the same for violating these norms. Because it's an interview, we can't look at which norm violation equaled which consequence, but white men did not bring up as many consequences. That being said, they did still bring up that these were cultural mismatches for them as well. White women and black men were tied in this area of how much they brought it up. It was about a third of the participants each. If you want to use a tip for this, if you want to conform to this rule, I have found it helpful in certain situations to try to blend interdependent and independent. You have to take ownership of what you contributed in an independent environment. But if it feels icky, and if you're a woman and or a racial minority, you can even be penalized for not being deferential, for being too communal. You can try to straddle both. So for example, in a job interview, when they ask you to about some experience you've had, you can say, I was happy to work on this team, or I led this team and we delivered ABC outcomes, and I worked on XYZ deliverables, which led to these results. Then you're taking ownership of something, you're showing them your expertise, but you're still within the bounds of talking about your team, which may be more comfortable for you, and if you're a woman and or a person of color, might result in less stereotype, because we know that women and people of color are also more likely to be perceived as aggressive or not a team player if they do take ownership of their accomplishments. So that is referred to as the double and triple bind. Different video. In the video before this, I talked about how I don't endorse these norms and I don't think they're right, and I hope we change, but y'all asked for transparency what it is, so I'm telling you what it is.